Good evening. You can say good evening back. Good evening, Mrs. Crow. My name's Dolores Kroll, and I have the pleasure of serving the office of the CEO as a Special Projects Manager. I'd like to welcome you all here. The CEO will be coming shortly to give you the official welcome. I'm going to give you some housekeeping notes. One of the things we want to cover first is questions. So we have some cards, and if you're interested in asking a question, you may do so by raising your hand, and someone will bring you a card. You can write your questions down. At the end of the presentation, we'll read those questions, and they also will be handing out our presentation for this evening. So let me give you some other housekeeping notes. For those of you who are here in person, we have the cards, as I just said. And if you're watching us live on YouTube, you can submit your questions by way of the YouTube chat box. Most of you will easily see the chat box depending on your browser. If not, you can also click on the name of the meeting to open the chat box. We will get to many of these questions during the meeting. If we receive more questions than we have time for tonight, you can also email general inquiries regarding SPLOST to the email address splost@DeKalbCountyGA.gov, or call and ask your question via voicemail at 404-268-4493. These questions will be answered in a timely manner beyond tonight's meeting. Finally, you can find much more about SPLOST on our county website under DeKalbSPLOST.com. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up our CEO, Michael Thurmond, who is going to kick our meeting off, starting with our vision.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank Dolores for her leadership and vision and just commitment from day one in terms of bringing and transforming the idea of the vision for a SPLOST into a reality here in DeKalb County. There are many important people with us tonight, and I want to recognize probably the four most important entities or personalities in the room. Fire Chief Penny, to my right, Officer Penny, Libby Penny, who works in the libraries, and of course the most famous and beloved Penny of all, Joe Penny. Let's give him a round of applause. Without the pennies, none of this would be possible. So thank you all so much to the citizens who are here, who've taken time out of your busy schedules to come out and share with us your thoughts, your dreams, your vision. We will try as best we can to answer any questions you might have. And I'm just so proud of DeKalb County. If you really think about where we are right now as a county, the passage of SPLOST I was a watershed moment in the history of DeKalb County. Think about it, SPLOST I. And DeKalb is probably the last major county in the state of Georgia to pass a SPLOST. And we were able to pass it because leaders and voters in the municipalities and in the unincorporated areas, north, south, east, and west, rallied to the flag. We knew that we needed to come together to build consensus and to make these critical infrastructure investments that are being made. But SPLOST I is just the beginning. SPLOST II now is approaching, and I'm just delighted with the fact that we've administered this program in a way on time, under budget. We've been great stewards of your dollars, no, your pennies, and because of that, I'm excited about bringing SPLOST II forward. So the vision for DeKalb County SPLOST is simple, and I'll read it to you. DeKalb County Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax will support countywide capital outlay improvements that promote a high quality of life for all residents. Two really important terms or words used: countywide, all residents. We want everyone to feel like their voices, their ideas, their expectations, their hopes are being heard and actualized as we continue on this process. So thanks again. I don't make big, long speeches anymore, Miss Sally Sears. I've kind of thrown them all away, Miss Bussey. and I respect your time. But most of all, my name is not on the ballot this year, so I don't have to make long speeches. But I do thank you for having given me this opportunity to serve as DeKalb County CEO the last 7 years. So with that, we will roll tape. Is that right, Dolores? All right. Hello, I'm DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurmond. Citizens of DeKalb County voted in 2017 to fund the county's first ever SPLOST, a special purpose local option sales tax. The program is expected to generate more than $388 million through a 1-cent sales tax that is earmarked for capital projects and distributed among 4 categories: transportation, public safety, parks, and recreation and community facilities. Let's take a closer look at how these funds are being used to improve our community.
Overall, SPLOST is expected to generate more than $600 million for DeKalb County and its cities. Of the county's share of more than $388 million SPLOST dollars, $244 million are slated to support transportation projects and improve high-priority corridors, including funding for more than $11 million to rebuild the Cedar Grove Bridge over the Norfolk Southern Railroad to help restore this vital artery. A 2.2-mile extension of the Michelle Obama Trail to move closer to connecting with the South River Multi-Use Trail and ultimately the Atlanta Beltline. Resurfacing more than 160 miles of road to date, with nearly another 100 miles under construction and 26 miles in advertisement to reach an overall goal of 300 miles throughout the entire county. Completing missing sidewalk segments throughout the county to improve access to schools, community facilities, and bus stops. SPLOST funding is also supporting traffic and safety improvements in coordination with a major water line replacement, and installing mini roundabouts at several intersections to reduce excessive speeding. SPLOST will help fund $87 million for public safety projects, including enhancements benefiting DeKalb's fire rescue and police departments. Some of those projects are the first of 5 new fire stations planned for DeKalb County, incorporating state-of-the-art health and safety features and community rooms. Also, roof replacements and alarm system upgrades throughout many of the 26 active fire stations in DeKalb. 6 new classroom buildings at the DeKalb County Fire Rescue Academy, and more than $9 million for new police cars, rapid response fire vehicles, and fire radio systems. In the capital outlay category, SPLOST has allocated $57 million for both parks and recreation and community facilities. $2.5 million of SPLOST funds, along with a $1.5 million contribution from the Atlanta Braves Foundation, have been used to support renovated baseball fields featuring artificial turf. And more than $2 million to resurface tennis and basketball courts, including 17 courts at the Mason Mill Tennis Center. $20 million SPLOST dollars have been allocated for general repairs at community facilities, including significant upgrades and repairs at the Lou Walker and Warren Street Senior Centers. More than $16 million for DeKalb County Courthouse repairs and improvements. A new roof for the historic Callenwald Fine Arts Center. And starting reconstruction of the N.H. Scott Pool.
SPLOST is making a tangible impact on the lives of DeKalb County residents. Thank you for this opportunity to showcase your pennies at work.
Thank you, and thank you to DCTV for putting that video together. As you can see, that was just a summary of some of the projects that we worked on for SPLOST I. And so just to give you a quick overview of SPLOST I, because we all know that you're here to learn more about what's happening with SPLOST II. Just want to remind you of some of the restraint or constraints that we were under SPLOST I. If you recall, our SPLOST was unlike anyone else's in the state where we had restrictions. It was 85% was restricted for transportation and public safety, and 15% for parks and capital repairs. And this included transportation with emphasis on resurfacing, public safety facilities, capital repairs to parks and athletic facilities, and capital repairs to county buildings. And we were successful in doing a lot of these, but we also feel great about the fact that we're just getting started, and come November 7th, we'll be in a position where we'll be able to do even more. So the next slide here is just some words I stole from the CEO about the historical significance of the passage of HB 431, which is also known as SPLOST II. And the CEO says that the passage of House Bill 431 is a milestone in the political history of DeKalb County. It is irrefutable proof that when we work together across political boundaries, there's no goal that cannot be achieved or accomplished. Our exemplary track record in implementing SPLOST I will serve as the foundation and impetus of the campaign that will seek voter approval of the SPLOST II referendum on November 7th. And again, those are the words of our CEO, Michael Thurmond. So now I'll do an overview highlighting how we kind of got here to SPLOST II. And after I sit down, we'll bring up our COO, Zach Williams, and he'll give you more details on the SPLOST II process. So, the SPLOST II overview. Just to recap from earlier this year, on Wednesday, May 3rd, Governor Brian Kemp signed HB 431, which authorized DeKalb County to hold a SPLOST II referendum on November 7th. But it was an interesting process getting there, and wanted to share with you that our legislative success would not have been possible without the unanimous support of DeKalb's House and Senate delegations. And those are our chairlady from the House, Ms. Carla Drenner, and from the Senate, Kim Jackson. The legislation earned overwhelming bipartisan support in the Georgia House of Representatives and State Senate by passing 174-0. I'll repeat that, 174-0 in the House, and 48-4 in the Senate. Those were the margins. So that kind of emphasizes the level of respect that people had for the work we had done in DeKalb and for our legislative process. Then we also had letters that we received from not only our Board of Commissioners, but also the mayors, and those letters really helped us in our position in convincing legislators and just to give us hearings and allow our bill to move forward. And then we also appreciate our government affairs and legal team members, yours truly. I wanted to do something because I did not do this, and I wanted to acknowledge some folks. Are there any elected officials in here tonight? If you are, would you stand up so we can recognize you? Oh, that's Commissioner Spears. Thank you. We also have members of our SPLOST Oversight Group. Can you stand and be recognized? Ms. Alice Bussey, Mr. Isaac Blighters, and Ms. Teresa Hardy. These folks have been working since April 2018, diligently representing their constituency and their commission districts on overviewing our progress with SPLOST. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Zach Williams, and he's going to talk to you about our process.
Thank you very much, Dolores. And good evening, everyone. You doing okay? Yes. My name is Zach Williams. I'm the Chief Operating Officer, and I have the honor and privilege of serving both the CEO and the Board of Commissioners. And I have the honor and privilege to stand before you today and just kind of talk about where we're headed with SPLOST II. And it would be remiss for me to start that conversation without a re-acknowledgement not only of the hard work that has gone into getting us to SPLOST I, but the exemplary work that has been done in managing SPLOST And it's because of that work, and as the CEO said in the quote, that it's irrefutable proof that we can, when you work together, you can get things done. I paraphrase. At the end of the day, because we work together, when we presented SPLOST II, it passed in the House, did you say 174-0? That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And what that is, it exemplifies the commitment that the CEO and the team made from day one, that we are going to ensure that we implement this SPLOST, and we're going to watch every penny, and the citizens are going to get what they paid for, and that's what has happened. So as we look forward for SPLOST II, and we see how the investments of these pennies will pay for quality of life, their investment in quality of life throughout the county. And our process is this. The DeKalb County attorney and staff, they will perform, and they have performed, a detailed review of House Bill 431 legislation to confirm the unrestricted categories. That was presented in a Board of Commissioners special call meeting and in other instances where they walk through, here is how the funds can be spent. County staff, industry professionals, and our Atlas program management team are completing a capital needs assessment. And we've done a call through the departments as to what are the needs. When you look around your operation, in consultation with your master plans, with citizen advisory groups, what is it that you see that you need? We've done that, and we've received an upwards of $3.5 billion in requests. Okay? So the need is vast, right? What we're in the process of doing is comparing the completed needs assessments with the unrestricted categories and projected SPLOST II revenues. Just like in our homes, right? You have to see, okay, here's what we need, and there's also a lot of what we want. Sometimes what we want and what we need are different, but here's what we need, and then at the end of the day, here's what we will be able to afford. And we're going to, through an exercise of prioritizing that and determining the categories that we will be recommending. That process will be with the CEO and administration doing like we're doing today, scheduling community meetings across the county, soliciting input, feedback, and feedback from residents. Talking to the people. What is it that you see? And what is it that you would like to articulate for us to look at as we develop our categories? Then the administration will provide the results of the assessments and community input and propose their findings to the Board of Commissioners for approval. Ultimately, the board will authorize, these are the categories we would like to move forward. There will be a lot of conversation that goes into that on determining what things we want to accomplish as we develop a referendum, essentially. That final list of categories will be incorporated into the SPLOST II referendum question for voter consideration. So after an inclusive process that involves not only our staff professionals, our program management team, input from residents, we will develop these list of categories. The board will have opportunities, of course, to modify, to discuss, to add to those categories, but ultimately, they're going to come back to you, just like last time, the citizens, and the citizens will determine how we should proceed, okay? And so that's going to be our process. We're excited. If history repeats itself, which I hope that it will, we will be able to demonstrate once again how effectively we can manage your pennies and accomplish a better quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Our next part of the presentation is going to go a little bit more specific, and we're going to ask our Deputy County Attorney, Mr. Terry Phillips, to come up and talk about the SPLOST II categories.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Terry Phillips, Deputy County Attorney. It's a privilege to be here with you. I'd like to go over this list with you and just highlight the expanded uses that are available if we, in fact, are able to achieve a SPLOST II. The first category is roads, streets, bridges, sidewalks, and bike paths. And in identifying that, while it may seem like a short list of things, recognize it as a broad category that would allow spending. The second one is public safety, airport facilities, and related capital equipment. Obviously, the term public safety is extremely broad. So again, it is a category that can be used. Qualified repairs of existing capital outlay projects, and there's an asterisk there. We'll have to analyze very carefully any proposed repairs to make sure that it is in fact within the qualified uses under the law governing the use of SPLOST dollars. If we get to that point, once a repair is identified, how it's characterized and how it fits into a project would be analyzed to make sure it fits the use of SPLOST dollars. Cultural, recreational, and historic facilities, the courthouse, administrative buildings, civic center, correctional and detention facilities, library, coliseum, solid waste and recovered material processing facilities, stormwater, another very broad category. Capital projects by a county authority operated in conjunction with one or more cities, Again, a huge, broad category. Water and sewer projects, retirement of general obligation debt, voting capital equipment, which could be a broad range of things that could support the elections process. Transportation facilities for people or goods, including railroads and mass transit, qualified hospitals or hospital facilities. Any capital outlay project owned, operated, and administered by the state within the county, and a broad general authorization for cities and counties to fund outlay projects generally. These categories will be developed for a more specific list of projects that are proposed, as Mr. Williams explained, and that will be included in the ultimate referendum question that's voted on by you, the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Next, we're going to talk about eHost, and we're going to ask our budget director, Mr. T.J. Siegler, to give us an overview.
Thank you, Dolores, and good evening. Happy to be here tonight to talk a little bit about eHost. So eHost, if you're unaware or haven't heard of it, it's that stands for the Equalized Homestead Option Sales Tax. And so all that really is it's a 1 penny sales tax that was passed in conjunction with the SPLOST, and the proceeds from the eHost are used to provide property tax relief for homestead property owners throughout the county. So 100% of the eHost revenue is dedicated to providing tax credits to homeowners in DeKalb. And that, as I said, passed alongside SPLOST in 2017 with 71% of the vote. And so to qualify for eHost, you just have to have a qualified homestead exemption on your home. It is being used. It will be used for property tax relief. So the savings from eHost is shown on your property tax bill in the column headed eHost credit. And from 2018 through 2022, eHost has saved homeowners over $591 million on their property tax bills. So SPLOST II, HB 431, did not change any provision of the eHost law. And on the screen here, you'll see two different links. One is to just additional information about the eHost. And the second link is to the tax commissioner's website, where you can find information about applying for homestead exemptions. Okay, and the next slide is just showing the amount of eHost tax credit that you would receive, or taxpayers would have received in the last 5 years, based on the value of their home. So you'll see that we have that listed for a $100,000 home all the way up to $1 million home. Thank you. Yes, sir. No, sir. It's 100% dedicated for tax relief.
Thank you, Mr. Siegler. Next, we have we're going to bring up a member of our program management team. And the program management team was critical in order for us to professionally and efficiently execute SPLOST. And so we were proud to bring up a team that had lots of experience in handling SPLOST in other large counties like Cobb and Gwinnett. And Chris Kingsbury will give us an overview of the team system and program management.
Thanks, Dolores. How many people know how many pennies laid end to end are in a mile? Well, come on, this is third grade math. A penny is 3/4 of an inch wide. So 16 pennies to the foot, 5,030 feet to the mile, 84,500. And we've collected to date $344 million in round numbers. It's a pay-as-you-go program. I think if I did the math right, that's 16 times around the world at the equator. So Dolores hit it on the head. DeKalb never had a SPLOST program. So what we brought to the program is a system we use. We have a team. Ernest Slaughter from CAFRA is on our team, and Kathy Warren of Folkston Collaborative Group. And the software we're going to demonstrate, just give you a couple of highlights here. Do I have the clicker? You've got the, Dolores doesn't trust me with the clicker. It's called Teams. It's like Total Enterprise Asset Management System. Wonky name, no relation to Microsoft, I have to say that, full disclosure. But OLH is a small woman-owned business. They started here in Atlanta. They put this together to do simple things that can be complicated. Every month we produce reports, 151 plus or minus pages, 140 some active projects. But it's done because it provides transparency and trust. The Board of Commissioners can click on the website, get schedule updates, financial updates. It's all in real time. The next slide, Dolores, if you click on the next slide, all kinds of wonky things go on behind the scenes with software packages and talking to the county's accounting system and talking to the internet. But at the end of the day, and the people in the field that are overseeing the paving operations, we put real-time updates almost daily, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, if not every day, depending on a rainy day like today, on the map that when you go to the county's homepage, click on the penny, I think it's Joe Penny shows up, put your address in, you'll get a real-time map of projects in your neighborhood, and most importantly for the resurfacing, green if it's been completed, orange if it's underway, and red if it's been scheduled in a contract that's been let. So I just can't emphasize it's the coordination that has to happen between our team and the county's team, and we're really here as a staff extension. That's the whole genesis of program management in the state of Georgia. As counties and cities went to bond and SPLOST programs, it's an extra level of work for extra income that the staff doesn't have time to focus on because they're focused on, Ms. Alice is here trying to keep the libraries running. If Chuck was here tonight, he'd say, Sally knows, trying to keep the parks running. Chief Fulham's got to run the fire department. So we're here to help implement these extra projects that the penny brings into the county. I think that's the last slide, Dolores, right? Yes, you're it. Save the date.
Okay, well, this last slide is just giving you an update on the remaining meetings. What the CEO wanted us to do, and the Board of Commissioners, is make sure we had coverage across the county, which includes cities. And we'll have actually another one tomorrow at the South DeKalb Senior Center. I just wanted to do one other quick thing about our SPLOST, and I talked to the CEO about this earlier, that we don't talk about that's unique to our SPLOST is DeKalb SPLOST is the only one that, and this is from, the CEO's knowledge of budget making at the state level. And we were talking about the taxes and the regressive nature of it. And he said, we need to do something for people who have fixed incomes, low socioeconomic status, and we need to remove taxes on prescribed drugs, and there's no taxes on unprepared foods. And that's unique to our SPLOST. No other county in this state has those 2 provisions. We don't talk about it a lot, but it's very important, especially if you fall into those categories where money is tight, you're on a fixed income. At least if you're in DeKalb, you have that additional level of assurance that really somebody cares. I think we're at the point now, unless the CEO had any additional comments, that we can start getting the questions answered and buckle up.
One little anecdote. I was talking to Charlotte Nash, who's the legendary former chair of Gwinnett County, and she mentioned to me that in Gwinnett, SPLOST has generated $2 billion. They're on SPLOST number 1670. We're trying to get to SPLOST II in DeKalb. And I'll just say that the reason we are only now on SPLOST 1 is that we just couldn't get it together. There was so much dissension, North versus South, Republican versus Democrat, black folk versus white folk, that we just couldn't build enough consensus to pass a SPLOST referendum. And you think about it in context, we were about $1.5 billion behind if we had just been able to do what other counties all around us do. And think about how that would have impacted the DeKalb that we live in today. So that's just a lesson as we prepare to move into SPLOST II. We must build consensus. Nobody gets everything that they want. Hopefully everyone will see something that they may have dreamed for or asked for in the ultimate outcome. So now we love to hear from the citizens, the people who pay the taxes, and make all of this possible. So is there a microphone or they come in here?
I got the question.
Oh, you got the question. Wait a minute. No, it's not Vanna. Who's retiring? It's the other guy. Sajak. Sajak's retiring, right? Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
Okay.
Give me an aura. You want to buy, Steve? Didn't want to buy.
Yes. The first question we have is, South Face Energy has a $250,000 contract with DeKalb County to recommend improvements to DeKalb. Do we have money for these improvements? I'm not familiar with that.
Mr. COO.
So, thank you. So South Face, there's an RFP that has gone out, a request for proposals. They were selected to assist in the development of a energy efficiency plan. I anticipate them getting a notice to proceed within the next 30 days, last report I got. And so ultimately, over the next year or so, they will develop a strategy for the county to become more green, more energy efficient. In that plan, it will lay out, replacing certain type of lighting, adding an LED, more energy efficiency. And at that time, we will determine whether or not the purchase of those new types of infrastructure is a straight purchase, or do we work with, there are also organizations that can come in, replace your lighting, then you pay them back through the energy savings and things like that. So I am certain that once they put together the plan, we'll be able to find a way to finance or purchase the recommendations.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, when will the capital needs assessment be completed and made available to the public?
Yeah. Right. So the capital needs assessments, I'm guessing in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks. We're in the process of going through and evaluating. We've come up with a basic prioritization process that we'll be working with departments. Once that begins to be whittled down, right? There'll be conversations within the administration, with the CEO, ultimately with the Board of Commissioners. And as we, kind of solidify what the categories are, that will be brought back to residents. And, environments like this, too, provide for a way to inform what goes into what we're considering. I'm going to guess, I'm going to use my mental telepathy. There may be some conversation or need for expanding the animal shelter. Maybe. But those are the types of things that will be evaluated as part of what we are considering, and then ultimately those will be brought back through the board and to the citizenry.
Thank you, Zach. This is a two-part question. The second is, can you post monthly progress reports on the public SPLOST website? That would be a question to you, Mr. Kingsbury.
They're there now. The majority of the projects to date have been resurfacing, so that's why that map is the first one to come up. But as the building projects come online, you'll start to see those pieces of information posted. And if you clicked on the map, Fire Station 7, you could have followed its progress from when we hired the designer to when we put the bids out to just a few weeks ago we had the grand opening. So the information is there. And if you got problems navigating it, just put a question into that helpline, and Loris will have those phone numbers and email sites later, and we'll always get back to you.
Okay, the next question is, how much of SPLOST II funds will be put towards transportation? I would say at this point we may not know that, but...
Of course, that is to be determined. Obviously, Chris and our contractors have made a tremendous amount of progress resurfacing some of the worst streets and roads in DeKalb County. But think about it now, with SPLOST I, went decades not addressing the maintenance and the repair of our streets and roads. No way we could have gotten it all done in one SPLOST. What are we doing, 200 and...
They do 100 active now. Previous years, they could do a dozen or 15 miles per year.
Yeah, so total is going to be about 300 or something, about 300. But what's the total need of those worst streets and roads?
The county has a little less than 2,000 miles in its road system, and the cutoff on a rating system, it could easily have been double or triple what we have under the current contract.
Between 600 and 900 miles in need of repair.
Okay, and then the second part to this is a request that DeKalb County commit to paving an additional 300 miles in unincorporated DeKalb.
Not against that. Yeah, I mean, that's good.
Okay.
And look, let me just say one thing. The reason I think we've been so successful is it's not a political process. And I can say this and stand here and look all of you all in the eye. I've yet to sit in a meeting where I said, let's go pave Green Street. It hadn't happened. And the people in this room know that it hadn't happened. We pave where our evaluation and our needs direct us to. It is not, and we have depoliticized the process. One of the things I didn't say, we have depoliticized it, because one of the reasons it took us so long to get to SPLOST I was it was so political. And we have intentionally depoliticized that process so that the people who need to do the work can go to work.
Thank you, sir. Okay, here's one. It probably won't get a lot of support, but I'm going to read it. As a member of the community, I would appreciate if some funds could be used for the animal shelter. In 2017, the current shelter was built to fill a need that has now reached overcapacity because of the city's growth. If we don't delegate funds to the shelter, then we risk more of what we are already witnessing, which is an increase in stray animals causing travel problems and accidents. Family issues when a loved one passes and their pet is displaced, as well as legal cases that fill the shelter, causing them to have to euthanize to make room. I'm sorry, as illegal hoard cases that fill the shelter, causing them to have to euthanize to make room. Having the means to improve and actually improving what this community is all about. Let's improve the shelter. I hope I didn't butcher that too much, but I think you got it. It was a statement, I believe.
It was a statement.
Yes. The Hidden Hills Golf Course has been closed for 10 years. 110 acres, is that right? Is that from Mr. Friesen? Yes.
All right. That's Mr. Frison's
Mr.
question.
Friesen,
I
yes.
know whose question that is.
Right, right. Our distinguished board member from MARTA.
MARTA board member.
Yes. 110 acres may be available for use by the DeKalb Parks and Recreation. Can funds in SPLOST II be used to develop walking trails on this property?
Hypothetically, yes.
I'm not sure, Mr. Friesen, who owns the,
Who owns the?
is it the HOA?
Currently it's owned by the Davidson family, which is getting ready to be sold because there's development happening on the golf course, and that transaction will move part of that into the Civic Association, and maybe into the DeKalb County Golf Parks and Recreation.
Okay, so it sounds like it's privately owned now, and there's a possibility for a transition into the HOA.
Yes.
Okay.
And let me just say, Mr. Friesen and the Civic Association, they have been so conscientious and dedicated and fighting this fight. The first day I met him, he engaged me in a conversation about the golf course and how to invest in it and create a better quality of life. So just thank you for your leadership, Mr. Friesen. Appreciate it.
And also, Mr. CEO, Mr. Friesen was a member of our SPLOST
Yeah, he was one
oversight
of the
committee.
original.
He was one of the
members.
original members.
Now he's a MARTA board member.
Right, now he's a MARTA board member.
The treasurer? Aren't you an officer?
I am the treasurer.
He's the treasurer of the MARTA board. Give him a hand. He's
Yeah.
the treasurer.
So next time when we ask for acknowledgments, we need you. You may not be elected, but you're important. Okay, the next question is, I wonder who this came from. Ellenwood, County Line. Who could that be? SPLOST II. We are due a generational park on the 46 acres. We have been waiting 20 years. Pat Johnson.
Yeah, all right, Ms. Bussey. So
Exactly. Exactly.
obviously, let me do SPLOST I, we were restricted. We couldn't purchase and build any new parks. I don't know whether y'all recognize that. Yeah, we couldn't do it. The public may not have known that. And because the legislature didn't trust us to do the right thing, so they put all these restrictions, right? And that's why it was so significant what Ms. Crowell said, that 5 years later, we could go to the legislature and get a grown-up SPLOST with no restrictions. Those same people said, we really have watched and we appreciate the way that you managed this project. So it's a huge difference in terms of the reception we received in 2017 and the reception we received this year. And that's because of you, because of Chris, Dolores, Zach, all these folks. And I only ask you all, just continue on that path, right? Don't lose focus on the good work that we have done and you all will be doing in the coming years. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the next question is, the federal government passed the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, which provides billions of dollars to local governments. Can we use SPLOST dollars to leverage the federal dollars which are available today?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
And we are.
and we are.
Yeah.
The next one is, can SPLOST be used for air quality improvements resulting from emissions coming from the South DeKalb landfills? I don't know if we know that answer.
Yeah, it can be used on the landfill.
I'll read the question again. Can SPLOST be used for air quality improvements resulting from emissions coming from the South DeKalb landfills?
It can be placed on a list of all the other requests that people and citizens want us to consider. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
Knowing the needs of what? What did you say, Mr. Williams? 3.5 billion, and we are projecting to have how much? About 400 million.
Right.
It's a significant amount of money, but it's nowhere near enough to do everything that we will be asked to do.
Okay, the next question is, what special provision includes to increase business opportunities for Black businesses and unincorporated DeKalb?
I love that question. Tell us about minority participation.
So the program had a goal of 20%, and I think, going on memory, I should have brought the report, we're at about 34, 35% of all the dollars, SPLOST dollars spent to date the last 5 years have gone to DeKalb LSBE firms. And in fact, 2 of the paving contracts have gone to a woman-owned minority firm out of Ellenwood. So it's been a pretty, we've almost doubled the goal.
Say that again. We have almost doubled our minority participation goal in terms of dollars invested in sport.
Correct.
And we have a LSB program. We focus primarily on DeKalb businesses. You know, we don't really care what color you are. If you're from DeKalb, we look out for you. Is that all right? Yeah, it's about DeKalb. And minority-owned businesses who are in DeKalb or associated with DeKalb have gotten major opportunities with this SPLOST. You know, people can talk, but the numbers are the numbers.
Okay, the next is, how will the air quality be improved through, I'm sorry, I can't read the rest of it.
Well, yes, that can be one of the considerations. Okay. But we got 7 commissioners, you got, you know, and at least 4 of them. In order to get anything done, I said a lot. People focus on the CEO. The most important number in DeKalb County in the charter is the number 4. The CEO can do very little without 4 commissioners supporting him or her. Stephen. No, I'm just kidding. But Stephen and I have been having a good time because I want y'all to know, I walked up to him, and I complimented you, didn't I?
You did. But you have power than 4 commissioners.
So what, Steve?
You have a lot more power than 4 commissioners.
We'll talk. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that to be true. You don't know how much I had to beg these commissioners to get anything done. Isn't that right, Commissioner Spear? Yes, ma'am.
DeKalb County made huge strides in caring for the animals by building a new shelter and adopting a no-kill resolution in 2017. The SPLOST plan has not mentioned increasing the capacity of the shelter. What is the county doing to expand capacity of the shelter so all animals have a chance for a good life?
Well, that's not a SPLOST question, but one of the causes that were not mentioned is the economy and inflation. People are having challenges feeding themselves and their families, and that's just a reality. It just is. And food insecurity, 25% of all the children in DeKalb County face food insecurity in any one month. So many of the animals that are coming into our custody are animals where people had to make a very hard decision. So one of the things that we need to work on in politics, we got to think upstream. What can we do to reduce the number of animals that even have to come to the shelter? Did that make any sense? Upstream. I told, and just on the issue at Grady, I told Grady, yeah, I'm great. Let's build some more level 1 trauma care beds. But why don't we invest in reducing the number of people who need level 1 trauma care beds? Don't you think? Yeah, you just, anyway.
Okay.
I'm old. Yeah, and anyway.
And this is related to the animal shelter as well. It says, what category of the 14 does the animal shelter fall under for SPLOST II?
No, I just think you continue to advocate and help educate the commissioners, myself, the general public, the oversight committee, and make sure that your priorities become incorporated in the larger priorities. You'll compete with others, right? Because 2 weeks ago we had Sally Sears, and she had the Friends of Parks here, right, Miss Sally Sears?
Thanks to the commissioner.
Thanks to, that's right, Miss Commissioner Spears brought us all here. I guarantee you, she got a list, because she has been chasing me now for 6 months. Every time that she sees me, what do you tell me, Miss Sally?
How are you going to help the parks and the trails and the recreation areas?
So I got to figure out how to keep Gloria happy and Sally Sears all at the same time, and I don't even think that's possible, but I'm going to try. All right? Yep.
Please provide more information on the Citizens Advisory Committee. The Citizens Oversight Group is a group that was formed from the Board of Commissioners. They did a resolution. Each commissioner has a designee. The CEO has 2. And their sole purpose is to connect and meet with the administrators of the SPLOST program, the staff. They have a monthly meeting, and they talk about and learn about what's going on with SPLOST activities. Some of our...
Do they report?
I'm sorry?
They're supposed to report.
They do report back to their constituents. That's the role of the Citizens Oversight Group. Well, we can talk more in detail about that, but the question was provide more information. So in order to be on that committee, your commissioner would nominate you. They bring it in front of the board, and it's, you know, whatever the commissioner's desire is, it's always supported. And you meet on a monthly basis. You go over the numbers. The person from our program management team comes to the meetings. He reviews what's been spent, what hasn't been spent. The members express their concerns over what they want to have done and what they don't. I'm very familiar with it because I was part of the very first one for 5 years. And we've had, you know, a very robust discussions, and Ms. Bussey can attribute to that, and so can Mr. Blighters and Teresa. But it's a very active group.
And Sharon Baker, who's in the back.
And Sharon Baker, that's right. And Sharon has been taking the lead on that since.
And they are citizen volunteers. They are not paid. Amen. So, I mean, just keep that in context when you're asking what else can they do. They are volunteers. I think Isaac had his name.
And those of you that might be interested, we have 2 vacant slots now. The CEO has 1 slot. He's looking for somebody to appoint, fill that slot. And I believe District 5. So if you will get in touch with Ms. Marita Johnson, the commissioner of that district, and perhaps you will consider appointing you if you're interested. We don't have a chair. We have 2 co-chairs. I'm one of the co-chairs, and Nancy Love from District 2 is the second co-chair.
Ms. Bussey?
I want to share that it's more than just looking at the reports. It's a lot of work. If you're going to represent the referendum that the citizens voted on, 71%, I was able to help write the referendum and share in creating the referendum in 2016. So it's a lot, it's a long journey, but when we come together to do oversight with the Board of Commissioners, presented a resolution that we are supposed to honor. With meetings, with planning, and making sure the public is engaged in it. The overall public. And if that doesn't happen, then we're not doing our oversight responsibility to make sure that those projects that were voted on in the referendum are adhered to, because that's what the citizens voted on. And it's more than just looking at the numbers. But we have to make sure that the referendum is adhered to.
Thank you, Ms. Bussey. And all of those meetings are posted online on our website. And even people who want to participate can even call in.
That's right.
Yes.
We understand the referendum and your organization called for you to report regularly, and we've been unable to find reports for the last 3 or 4 years from your committee. It's not on the website. Have they not been generated, and I just not looked in the right place?
They're on the website. We'll get back with you because we produce a report every year that the oversight group reviews and sends on to the administration with a cover letter. So I'm surprised you can't find it.
It's your report,
Okay.
not yours, Mr. Speaker.
They take the data we generate and put their cover letter on it.
Thank you.
And let me mention something too. The referendum will have categories, not individual projects. That is a point, or has been a point of confusion. The referendum itself won't have Green Lake Park, Broad Street, Green Street. It doesn't work that way. So there won't be individual projects that people will vote on.
There will not be information available to the public. There was in 2017, was there not? There was a list of all the streets and which fire stations and whatnot. There's
Not on the referendum.
like that.
I'm speaking to the referendum, the ballot that you will see. No, there will not be individual
But
projects.
there will be individual projects available.
like there was last time.
There will be somewhat, but if you name a project and put it on a referendum, you have to complete it, even if you don't have the revenue for it. And,
You will be providing
oh, yeah,
more information
absolutely.
that explains what you're anticipating will go into those categories.
Oh, absolutely.
Not on the referendum, but on to the public.
Oh, yeah, I was speaking only to the referendum.
And you think that the earlier question, which category the animal shelter would fall into, it would be helpful to understand which of the 14 that falls into.
Probably
If you
public
speak-
safety. Probably
Raise your
public
hand so
safety.
you can have
Because
the mic.
typically it's about public safety. It's public safety. You don't want, abandoned or stray animals. It's a public safety issue at the end of the day for DeKalb County.
Okay.
I saw a hand in the back.
Yes, I think.
This gentleman, did you have your hand up?
Well,
sir?
I still have 3 cards I want to get through.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
We'll come
And
back.
then we'll get back to you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, is consideration for participatory budget resident-led, I believe, process to distribute budget outlay projects? Let me read the question again. Is the consideration for participatory budget process to distribute budget outlay projects? Whoever wrote that question, maybe you can clarify, because I didn't. Was that your question, sir?
Participatory budgeting is a process that allows residents to actually collectively determine how they actually assess. Say you have a total category of projects, they can actually assign percentages within the county of how they would break up that budgeting, how residents would break down that budgeting according to the potential projects that are there, and then being able to see what happens. It's a very huge tool in community engagement that's really necessary for actually engaging the larger population that's not right now engaged in the civic process. So being able to engage local community members in this participatory budgeting is a process that has been created from bottom-up development. Organizations are leading this now. It's a global movement.
Interesting.
Thank you.
What helps me, I wish that I could, but I don't. I have to rely on experts and people who generate data, who understand it, and we share it with the public. It's hard to know what is the most appropriate allocation of a dollar without having done the due diligence. Mr. Williams talked about sustainability. Which buildings are in most need? I have no idea. But once we do the assessment, we have to allow the data to drive our decision making. One of the things, and I'll go back to it, you can't let politics drive this. Just can't do it. You're not going to end up in a good place. I'm just telling you, you will not end up in a good place. And that is why we're on SPLOST I. So as best as we can, not totally, but at least allow the people who have the knowledge, the expertise, who've done the research, who've been able to crunch the data, to make good recommendations that we can follow, and that will negate or at least lead to, I think, better decision making. I don't know which parks are in greatest need of investment. I just don't. Yeah, I don't. But Chuck Ellis and his staff, who are always evaluating and generating the data and looking at the plan, they have a long-term plan as to where we should invest next, how we need to invest, where we're going in the future. That's how we get to the decision making. And I just have to trust it. I don't know which street is in most need of being paved next week. I just don't. But I do enjoy, I used to do this, I stopped there on Sunday, I would just ride around DeKalb and find freshly paved streets just to ride through neighborhoods. It was just such a thrill for me because we had gone so long without it. And sometimes I would stop and talk to a resident and say, what do you think about the new paved street? And but I didn't make that decision about which street. Did I, Chris?
Maybe Alan.
I'm going to do it. Yes, ma'am. You got one more.
I have one other one. This is one for TJ. Is eHost up for renewal with SPLOST II? It's 3 parts, so that's the first one.
All right. I think I might defer to the law department on that because I think that is something they were still looking at as whether or not that's a separate part of the ballot question. Is that correct, Terry?
We're looking carefully at exactly how the ballot questions have to be crafted. And at this point, what we're clear about is we will use the statutory language for the question on SPLOST. And whatever else has to be included, we'll identify that and make sure the ballot is built the right way, whether or not eHost has to be done again or not. There are differing opinions, but we'll take a cautious approach and recommend it that way.
Okay. The second question is, what percentage of DeKalb residents does the current eHost program benefit?
That I don't know off the top of my head, yeah, but it would be any DeKalb resident that has a homestead exemption. So 100% of DeKalb residents that have homestead exemptions, they qualify for eHost.
Okay, and the third part is there a way to make this program more beneficial to those who need it, underline? Example, not universal to all homeowners. I don't think
No.
so. No.
It's homestead exemptions. You have to seek it. It's rich. That's right, Steve. It's rich and poor. If you're a homeowner, if it's your homestead exemption, you get the credit. And this year, as far as your county tax liability, i.e. the taxes that go to run this government, not the school district, but this government or your city, we're projecting 100%.
Right, for the general fund and the hospital fund. So those are the millage rates that everyone throughout the county pays, whether you're unincorporated or in a city. Every single resident, every single property owner in DeKalb pays those 2 millage rates.
And basically, it will be a net zero. For county services. Now, back in the old days, that would get an applause, but maybe. Back in the old days, it would matter. Yeah, isn't that kind of cool, though? And we're the only county in the state that has that. So when you get your tax, your bill from Mr. Commissioner Johnson, most people don't do it, but I was talking to a group of realtors this morning. Look for your e-host credit. Just look at it, e-host credit, and that is assessed against your ad valorem tax liability. And if you look at your general millage rate, that number will basically zero out taxes paid on the general millage rate countywide. So, like, I'm free, y'all. You know, y'all get me free. I mean, then you get what you pay for, though, right? So, anyway.
I have another question.
I hear that next Tuesday. Yeah. I'm going to hear that next Tuesday. I know. Don't use it on me, Steve.
When does SPLOST I end?
March 31st, 2024.
March 31st, 2024. How long will SPLOST II remain active?
If it passes,
6 years.
6 years.
Right. If it
passes, 6 years.
Are there any other questions from YouTube or?
Is it 6 years fixed, or is it like the current one that was 5 years and you could opt for another year?
We opted for 6.
I would like to request to do either 5 or 7 so that when it comes up for the third time, we'll be able to elect it during an even election cycle so that more people will be able to vote on it during a gubernatorial or a presidential election. The turnout is way higher than an odd year where we may, if we're lucky, get a little bit over 10% turnout. We should be voting on something like this when we're getting 40 or 60% turnout. Just a suggestion.
No, I wanted 5. I was overruled because I'm seriously, but the mayors wanted 6, and so.
No, I know, but I mean,
yeah.
For this one.
But it's too late for this one. This one done. This one done. They wanted 6. I've always wanted 5 because I want to be able to rethink and re-envision what's next.
Why is it too late?
Because the legislature passed it as a 6. And so we had to put it in the legislation that Ms. Crowell talked about. So the one that was passed is a 6-year SPLOST. Yes, ma'am.
CEO Thurmond and COO Williams, thank you so much for mentioning the annual shelter. This is less of a question and more of hopefully a correction of the record. There seems to be a general misunderstanding about the fabulous new building that you were brand new and did the ribbon cutting for in 2017. Thank you. Addressed growth in the county. In fact, the building was built smaller than what was originally asked for, which would have addressed growth. And so now we're in arrears. And that building in 2017, I know I was there, filled up within 4 months, and we were beyond capacity already then. So add on to it everything else that has happened, including the growth of the county. We are way in arrears. But I just wanted to correct that record that we did not get a bigger building. We just got a building that was safe and not falling down. So thank you.
I wanted to find out how, thank you. I wanted to find out when can we get land for another landfill that would be north as opposed to south, so we could improve our streets, stop so many trucks traveling and keeping them damaged, and then get the smell, the air quality cleaned up with some of these funds. Because people are sick and some are dying. And there's too much garbage that comes from the north to the south because of the expansion and the growth of this county. And it should be made a priority for the health of the people. We keep talking about everything else except for the bedrock senior citizens that live in the unincorporated area where that landfill is. And they're supposed to have been, for some of the prior commissioners who voted, to have some subsidization of the health, especially for the increase in asthma. And we had the EPA to come out and find contamination in the water.
but yet nothing has been done or talked about from the human factor. Lives, quality of life. And when we go to church on Sunday, you cannot bear the smell before you enter the church. So that needs to become a priority for the garbage of DeKalb, to become the priority for your office, for the Board of Commissioners, to do something about the garbage for all these increased citizens that's coming south.
Thank you. That's an issue. Let me say this, though, in all fairness to people who preceded me, Mr. Williams and Ms. Tracy Hutchison. I think around 1995, there was 7 landfills in South DeKalb. Now it's 1. But just in fairness, when we said nothing has been done, a lot has been done. We're down to 1. DeKalb is the last jurisdiction that actually owns and operates in Metro Atlanta a landfill. We're the last jurisdiction that operates one. Obviously, it's an issue that this government will have to think through and address in the coming years. But it's not an overnight decision, to be right honest with you. But we've made progress, and you're absolutely right. South DeKalb was just rife with landfills. Really was. And we've shut them all down but the one that we own. And that's a decision that some of the younger leaders are going to have to make about how to take the next step.
The human factor.
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all. We got one more. Yes, sir.
I did want to ask a question in terms of the categories. I think the bottom one had the broadest, kind of most open definition. Is there an opportunity of being able to use community engagement as an actual item for using and investing SPLOST in? I think there can be a lot more economic development and economic growth that can come from community engagement, especially since this is supposed to be resident-led and citizen-led.
No, we need to work as hard as we can to engage as many citizens, and your input, this is just one step in that process as we move forward. I have no problem with citizen and community engagement in helping us make better decisions about the future direction of this county. I enjoy it. I like to engage the folks. And the more minds, I don't have all the answers. I'm just telling you, I don't come to the table presupposing that I know the answers. It's just the opposite. What I try to do is find the most important and the most significant and compelling questions that need to be asked. And I'll let smarter people provide me with answers. Thank y'all so much for coming. This has been great. And thank y'all so much for the advocates, for our pets who are out tonight in force. And be there tomorrow, too. I love it. I love it.
Sir, we did have one last question.
Okay, Dolores.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You just can't let it go.
I know. Well, it's
go ahead. I'm just
it's
playing with you.
Is repeat the prescription and it should be unprepared. Are these two exempt?
See, she wanted the question that only she could answer, right? That's what that was. All right, Dolores, go ahead. It's your moment.
One.
Okay, all right.
It's unprepared foods and prescription drugs are exempt from sales tax, yes.
And that's a big deal, y'all. It's a $10 million deal, but it's worth every penny that we leave in the pocketbooks of individuals, particularly senior citizens on fixed income and low income citizens. It just is. That's what that is worth. It's a $10 million line item.
That's it.
Thank y'all.